Alright, it's Michael Trout here. And I'm playing with Spreaker for the first time. It's actually really neat. And I don't know if this is too loud or not. Can you hear me? Alrighty, I'm just playing around. This seems super cool. And I want to talk about how fucked we are as a planet. I don't know if you realize, but we are really fucked. And well, you said, well, everything's great. We got all this technology, got all this stuff. Well, let's talk about the reality of the situation. And it's pretty bad. So let's start off with the bees. The birds, the bees. Well, here's what's really messed up about the bees is that the EPA and the FDA and the presidents and everyone else have known that the bees have been collapsing for the last 60 years. And if you watch some talks of mine, I can show you the smoking gun. The FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, has been monitoring data and collecting data and surveys on beekeeping for over 60 years. And guess what? Bees haven't just collapsed, just 30-40% of the last few years. The entire beekeeping industry has collapsed over 80% since its inception in the 1940s. That's right, 80%. And one of the prime motivators on this whole bee thing and was Rachel Carson, and everyone's forgotten Rachel. Rachel wrote this pivotal book in the 1960s called Silent Spring, and she warned us of this impending doom. She warned us, and she saw basically what was going on with pesticides and everything, and she wrote this little book. And this little book started something called the environmental movement, which, if you're old enough, like most of our parents, I'm not quite old enough for the environmental movement. I was born in 1967. But anyone who is in their 60s and 70s, late 50s, well, okay, let's say 10 years older than me, probably will, right? So in their late 50s, will remember something called the environmental movement. And let me tell you a little story about the environmental movement. It was squashed by Reagan. Carter probably will be remembered as the most important president, in my view. Everyone laughs at Carter, but in fact, Carter is probably the most important president. And here's why. Because in the 60 years of bee data from the FDA, bees only increased during Carter's administration. So regardless of what everyone else says about Carter, I'm like, you know what? He's the only president, basically since the 1950s, the birth of pesticides, and you can look that up on Wikipedia, that's the 1950s, that bees recovered. In my view, any president who is able to make the bees come back a little bit, and it wasn't a lot, I'm talking about very slight recovery, then he must have been doing something right. And why that happened was Carter was basically known as the anti-pesticide president, and put in the most stringent laws, listened to the environmental movement, and the bees started to recover. The good news is the bees can recover as long as we understand that the crisis is bees. Alright, I don't know if you enjoyed that, a little bit of bee history. And now we're going to move on to the next topic. I'm playing around here with different musics. You gotta bear with me. Our planet. Let's talk about our planet. the bigger picture here. Our planet. Our planet. We have completely screwed up our planet. And let's talk about the most important aspect of our planet. What is the most important aspect? Okay, I'm going to quiz you. What do you think is the most important aspect of our planet? You know what it is? What do you think? I'm going to have my Facebook page open. So the one thing I'm looking at this is there is really no way. Why don't they have, like, as people join, that I can see that you've joined, and there's like a little chat session, right? Or maybe there is a chat session. Published. No messages. Okay. It's unlocked. It's locked. It's unlocked. Okay, so there is a chat message. It'd be nice if there was like a URL that you could click here and say, hey, join this chat, right? But I'm going to open up my Facebook page, and if you have any comments, you can basically place it underneath the come listen thing, if there is any. I'll answer them. So our planet, what is really messed up? Well, let me educate you about something on our planet. Water. And you may think, wow, there's water everywhere. It seems like there's water everywhere. And yes, there is tons of water everywhere. Billions of tons of water everywhere. However, those million tons are salt water. And the simple fact is only 2.5% of our water on our planet has no salt in it, right? So I think is salt free. And this water is vital for all life. Okay, but it gets worse here. What's really interesting is that of that 2.5%, most of that water is sequestered. It means it's held back either deep underground or in glaciers or in the poles. Well, in one pole, because the other poles basically we're already melting one. And on places like Iceland and Antarctica and everything else, that's where the water. You know how much water that's left for us, including rainwater and river water and everything else on our planet? How much? Well, I'll tell you how much. From 0. Count them now. 0.007% to 0.0035%. Okay, so 307% to 2035%. It ranges. Okay, depending on who you talk to, but still, that's a small amount of water, people. That is a really, really small amount of water. And what's even more scary is that over 70% of this small amounts of water is becoming contaminated with agrochemicals. And another 20%, and growing now that we have fracking, that percentage is going to go out of the ballpark, right? Because fracking, what it does is messes up the groundwater. So years to come, when we're like, you know what, we need to reach this deep water, we need to get to this groundwater, guess what? We've ruined it all with fracking, making Halliburton billions as they trash the planet, making Monsanto billions as they trash the planet. It's like these guys are just completely, they're insane. It's insanity. So basically, you have to think about the simple fact is we are poisoning all this water. And who needs this water? Well, it goes back to point one, the bees. So, and what's really funny is that everyone's talking about pesticides and pollen. Pesticides, people, are systemic. Systemic is just a fancy word meaning in the system. What is in our system? What makes up most of our body? What makes up most of plant? Right? It's water. Water. And, they're not topical anymore. There are some topical pesticides, but most of which they spray on, they're kind of waxy. But they don't use them anymore. Since the mid-1990s, they developed systemic pesticides, which are water soluble, and it means that the damn shit is now in your food. So when you are eating, the apple or those, delicious strawberries or whatever, guess what? You got to look at that fruit and go, what's inside this fruit? Because probably there is pesticides. And And here's really scary. I only learned this fact recently that 80-85% of our blood, your blood, my blood, everyone's blood around you, 85%, okay, 80-85%, has DDT in it. And DDT has been banned in America for decades, but it's not banned in other places. In a lot of places, that's where our fruit comes from. They don't have the pesticide regulations. We have at least some. They're not strong enough, right? The bees are still crashing. Pesticides are ultimately living out what Rachel Carson basically, predicted: silent spring. And the simple fact is, our water, the water that's vital for bees, and you can watch one of my videos, rather popular. I mean, to me, popular is 1,000 views, okay, and number of likes. If I get over 10 likes and 1,000 views, I think that's popular. I wish my shit would go viral, maybe one day. But anyway, so you wonder, like, and this ties, the whole water thing ties the bees. What's going on? Well, we're poisoning the water, and it's crashing the bees. It's really that simple. It's crashing all of life, And and if we talk about the land water, right? Now let's talk about the ocean water. I recently learned, and this blew my mind. Again, I recently learned. I'm learning stuff all the time, and if I don't know it, I know you don't know it, right? The odds are you don't. Maybe you do, okay? Is that 40% of our oceans, okay? That's 40% of our oceans. I'm going to say it again. 40% of our oceans, actually over 40%, has this plastic sludge. Plastic sludge. It's kind of like, reminds me of when I hear that pink slime in McDonald's. I mean, that was enough to get my kids. I showed my kids the pink slime video. But plastic sludge. I want you to equate plastic sludge to pink slime, if that was enough to get you off, right? Isn't that enough to get you wondering about saving our planet and its oceans? Well, there's a lot more, but that's all I want to talk about. We fucked up our planet for our kids, and now what? They're going to continue to get more plastic sludge. We're going to continue to get more pesticides. We're going to continue to mess up our water. So, seriously, what are we leaving our kids in their future? I want you to think about that. My name is Michael Trout. Just messing around with Spreaker, playing around and seeing if folks like this kind of broadcast, and having fun. Alright, that's Michael Trout signing off. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this test production of mine.